Hello everyone, we are from Group 3 and now we're going to talk about linguistic gaps in the English-Kiswahili translation of Agropesticide text in Tanzania. Arranged by Septa Wiguna, Rizky Agus, and Ridwan. The abstract. This study looks into linguistic mistakes in Tanzania translations of Agropesticide text into Kiswahili and English. Farmers can handle illness and pests properly due to the information's translation into Kiswahili. There were a number of difficulties in translating the information, including differences in the meaning of the original language, formal differences between English and Kiswahili, the lack of Kiswahili names for various Kiswahili diseases and pests, and traditional farming practices. The differences between the two languages at the word level will be addressed by translating through description. The purpose of guidelines on the use of appropriate agropesticides is to help farmers engage in profitable farming. By adapting descriptive equivalence and borrowing to the morphological and phonological patterns of the target language, the difficulties associated with translation between the two languages can be minimized. Translation through borrowing always produces a message other than what the target audience really wants, and sometimes the translation may differ from the canonical pattern of the target language. The background. The majority of developing nations, including Tanzania, rely on traditional methods to exchange agricultural information between farmers and agricultural experts. They play an important role in educating farmers about more effective farming methods. An appropriate description of their use should be in English, since the numerous agricultural inputs are imported into Tanzania from other countries. Translation is required because farmers cannot understand the descriptions in the agricultural inputs, instruction manuals, because the majority of them do not speak English. If translation is not done, agricultural information won't be communicated, and knowledge of agricultural techniques won't be shared. When the movements of goods between nations are widespread, communication in target language is crucial for the transaction to be effective in today's globalized world. For better farming methods and products, it is crucial to comprehend agricultural information in the local language and context. In order for farmers to understand information about the proper use of agrochemicals and equipment, it is translated from English to Kiswahili in Tanzania. There are always difficulties involved with translating a text that contains any kind of information or is written in any language. The inadequacy of translation stems from irreducible linguistic and cultural differences between the languages, context, and culture of the source and target groups. No matter how different the source and target groups' languages, cultures, and lifestyles are from one another, the target group is always on the hook for mistranslations. The difference in meaning between the source language and the target language, particularly for phrases distinctive to a particular culture, has also been mentioned as an issue. Malangwa demonstrates that some Kiswahili food names have the same English equivalence, even though they signify various meanings in the local context. For example, the English terms rice are wali, boko-boko, biryani, and mshe in Kiswahili. In other words, while English cannot distinguish between different varieties of rice, Kiswahili can do so. The methods. This study adopted a qualitative approach. The qualitative approach uses data that are in the form of text The present study considered textual data from the agropesticide text collected by the researchers from farm input shops. The interviews with the farmers at their homes were meant to reveal their opinions regarding their satisfaction with the Kiswahili translated text and their ability to comprehend the proper application of different agropesticides through those texts. The translators were interviewed in their convenient places to reveal the challenges that they face when translating such text. The data from interviews were analyzed thematically, following flexibly the steps proposed by Brown and Clark. The steps include familiarizing with the data, generating initial codes, searching for themes, revising themes, defining and naming themes, and producing the reports. The findings: coinages in the source language. Because coinages are lexicalized in the source language before they are lexicalized in the target language, they have no equivalence in the target language. As a result, they lack lexical equivalence in the target language. These are the examples of source language brand names of pesticides that farmers cannot identify by name if they want to buy a new one, even if they had previously purchased and used the same. They remember them based on the color of the container or images on the user guide manual or label. Meaning distinctions in the source language. Kiswahili does not differentiate between pesticides and insecticides. In many English-Kiswahili translated agropesticide texts, pesticide and insecticide appear to respond equally into dawa ya kulia wadudu. They appear to be identical in Kiswahili. According to Becker, translators will always face difficulties in selecting the appropriate equivalent for each meaning distinction in a language that does not make such distinctions. Using a general term as an equivalent for a specific one is a good option in translation because the primary goal of translation is to translate meaning rather than words. Formal differences between English and Kiswahili. In English, the suffix "side", which means killer, can be used to derive consistently the names of chemicals that are used to kill certain vectors of plants, as in pesticide, that which kills pests, and insecticide, that which kill insects. Kiswahili lacks the corresponding formal features to properly host those in English. Rather than morphemes as in English, it employs words and sentences. Pesticide, for example, is translated as dawa, roughly translated as chemicals, and dawa ya kulia wadudu, roughly translated as the chemicals that kill insects in many texts. Pesticide, insecticide, and arresticide are all synonyms for dawa ya kulia wadudu. Lack of Kiswahili equivalent for some crop diseases and pests. Some pest names, such as tuber moth, psylla, Pelusia looper, and Africa bollworm, are not translated into Kiswahili according to one text. In Kiswahili, for example, Africa bollworm is known as Funzawa fitumba fiapamba. The reasons for borrowing are based on the fact that such Kiswahili equivalents are only used in agriculture by agricultural experts. Then, unless they consult agricultural experts when translating this text, some translators may be unaware of the existence of these Kiswahili terms. The traditional agricultural practices. In the review text, the words farrowing houses, poultry houses, dairy parlors, and all farm buildings do not have relevant translations in Kiswahili. These terms refer to zero grazing, which is rare in rural Tanzania. Cattle and poultry sellers are sometimes shared with humans. In this case, the meanings of such words as farm buildings and poultry houses are extended to human houses too, contrary to what it is perceived in the source text. A possible danger is that pesticide meant for animal houses may be applied in a human house that is shared with animals. God says that translators sometimes forget the socio-cultural orientations of the readership and concentrate much on linguistic factors contrary to the needs of the functional equivalence theory. This situation makes the lay public vulnerable to misinterpretations of the pesticides. And then there's the assignment from group 3. Thank you for listening. Thank you.